Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 23rd edition of the Startup Operators Weekly Roundup. My name is Gunjan Saha, and joining me today we have Roshan Karyapa, host of the Startup Operator podcast. Hi, Roshan. How are you doing today?
Hey Gunjan, lots of activity for us to cover. So I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited to kick this roundup. It's been a great week for SaaS companies. What say?
It's been a sassy week, if I can say so, right? Yeah, so we've seen plenty of fundraise activity on the SaaS front this week, and it's something that we've spoken about earlier as well, right? Look, the SaaS market is over $100 billion. It's supposed to be around 140 billion by 2022, as per Gartner estimates. And if you look at how software itself is SaaSifying, right? Because it becomes more scalable, effective, cost effective, etc. Once software converts to SaaS, building and selling software is going to entirely become SaaS based, right? So and it's a lot more integral now, given COVID and given the rise of digitization and so on and so forth. And if you look at the economics of the business itself, there are very unique attributes about the business that makes a lot of sense, right? Whether the fact of recurring revenue, Salesforce is at $20 billion, and all of that revenue almost is recurring. Then there's a fact about net retention rate, for example. You can look at companies like Bill.com, which serves SMBs and offers billing software, right? And now SMBs are notorious for churn, but then even Bill.com, which sells a very integral service, right, offers, has around 122% net retention, which is really, really amazing, right? So, and then, if all of the ease of use and all of that stuff, right? The whole consumerization of B2B software that's happened and pioneered by SaaS, modalities of payment through, card, and then look at the crazy margins also that these companies have, right? 60-70% gross margins. And even the mature companies, right? I mean, we spoke about Salesforce. Even Salesforce is growing at about 25% year on year, right? Which is just mind blowing. So the economics of all of this makes it a very lucrative space to invest in. And what we're seeing is truly global businesses being built out of India. See,
Yeah.
India's got a crazy amount of IT talent, right? So we have a base of IT talent, and we've built really, really good services companies earlier. And pivoting from services to products and building IP of our own was a key challenge earlier. But I think we're solving that through SaaS right now. And we've spoken to Prasanna and Rajan of Upeka earlier, and I plan to talk to a lot more SaaS founders in the coming months, especially. We have a few lined up already, so yep. Hopefully, it'll be a SaaSy month also.
Folks, if you have any suggestions or any recommendation for those who would like us to interview next, do let us know and we'll definitely reach out to them. But before we get started with the roundup, we put out two amazing episodes, right? One with Joe Agarwal, which stressed on the importance of mental health as we move to remote work, and also by the man himself, Rory Sutherland, on alchemy for startups. Roshan, anything you'd like to add on your conversation with Rory?
Yeah, both wonderful conversations. Rory was a very surreal experience, right? He's the god of advertising, and alchemy is a must read for everyone. So it was amazing to contextualize all of those things in the realm of startups. Definitely check out both these episodes. Very, very good episodes.
Right. We'll also link them in the description below for easy access. Okay, so the first news of the week, we have Whatfix. Whatfix is currently in active talks to raise 80 to 90 million dollars as part of its Series D fundraise. Now, this fundraise will be led by SoftBank Vision Fund 2, and it will value the company at almost 500 to 550 million dollars. This will also mark SoftBank's second investment in the Indian SaaS sector in 5 months. The Japanese conglomerate backed sales enablement platform MindTickle last November, leading the startup's 100 million fundraise. Along with Whatfix, we also have ChargeBee, which is a billing and revenue management startup. It has raised $125 million in its Series G round, led by new investors Sapphire Ventures and existing investors Tiger Global and Inside Venture Partners. The round also saw participation from another existing investor, SteadView Capital. Now, ChargeBee helps businesses automate the subscription, billing, invoice, and payments, and has clients across 60 countries. The startup said that the funding will be used to expand its global footprint and clientele. With a current valuation of $1.4 billion, ChargeBee is India's 11th unicorn this year, and also Tiger Global's 20th unicorn, or the 7th this year. Roshan, you mentioned earlier, right, it's been a SaaSy weekend. So I think right now is a great time to be a SaaS company in India, especially when the entire country is undergoing digital transformation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Another week, another unicorn, no? It's kind of been the flavor of the season. So let's start with Whatfix, right? So Whatfix operates in the whole digital onboarding and adoption space. And essentially what they do is handhold user experience within the app. Right, so gone are the days when people learn through manuals or courses or whatever. People prefer learning by using, right? And you could think of enterprise software like Salesforce or SAP's Factors or some kind of Oracle software and so on. Now, these are not trivial applications to use, right? There's a lot of knowledge required. And Whatfix, basically what it does is it cues people to use the software in the right way through a variety of tips and other workflows and so on and so forth, right? So again, I mean, it's a new problem and a new solution, right? So my best guess is that they're around about 50 million in revenue or so, right? And as you rightly mentioned, there's a lot of digitization post COVID. Given that we're all operating in a remote environment, this becomes especially relevant, right? And some of this software that we mentioned, whether it's Salesforce, Oracle, or SAP, these are not cheap by any estimation, right? I mean, these are extremely costly, and the cost is only rising. So, yeah, so that's the relevance of Whatfix, and given that we know some of these people, I mean, wishing them all the best for the journey ahead. So ChargeBee is another fantastic business, right? They essentially manage subscription billing for small entrepreneurs and businesses. Roughly, they operate in the revenue operations space, right? And they do a bunch of things like quote to cash, trial management, tax, and essentially look after your customer life cycle. They compete with companies like Chargeify, a few others I don't recall. And then there are public companies also in the space like Stripe, of course, and Zuora as well, right? Again, I think they're probably doing about 50 million or thereabouts in revenue. And ChargeBee is one of Axel's first successes, right, along with Freshworks and so on. So another very interesting company, another very integral solution to a problem that is, I won't say it's a recent one. Of course, billing has always existed, but then this whole subscription billing and the nuances that it imposes is a new one, right? Relatively, and ChargeBee is a fantastic team as well, right? Led by Krish, and all the best to them as well.
Super. So moving on to the next piece of news that we have, it is Pristine Care. Tiger Global has led a $53 million round in healthcare startup Pristine Care. The Series D funding also saw participation from the startup's existing investors Sequoia Capital, Hummingbird Ventures, and Epic Capital. Valuation for Pristine Care has more than doubled to over 550 million from its earlier $250 million valuation 6 months ago. Just a couple of weeks back, we also discussed Pristine Care at length in the earlier fundraise. And it's very interesting to note the space in which Pristine Care is actually operating. It is consolidating all the major surgeries and home care services that a patient might require and digitizing the entire process. Also, one of the major step which is being taken in the Indian healthcare ecosystem, where there is some effort made to balance the supply and demand. As by the nature of the business itself, it is not easy to always have bed in the hospitals, as we can see in the news today. But Roshan, anything you'd like to add from your end?
No, it's a very interesting business, as you said, right? They're trying to match demand and supply, and utilization is the key constraint in healthcare, right? And we're seeing this right now in the midst of the second wave, right? Where supply and demand. I mean, demand has risen 4 times, 5 times for things like oxygen and so on and so forth. And we're not able to meet the supply, not because we don't have the capacity, but because of a pure planning and logistics failure, right? So yeah, another very good innovation, and more power to the team.
Right. Also, in our earlier rounders, we have been talking about ESOPs a lot. And I think people have been really looking to the rounders that we put out, and there's an ESOP management tool in the news. Capita, which provides a software solution for ESOP and capitalization table or cap table management, has raised $5 million in its pre-Series A funding round. Mass Mutual Ventures led the fundraise, and other participants in the round included India Partners, Paul Allen's Vulcan Capital, East Ventures, and India-based angel investors such as Avana Capital founder Anjali Bansal and Udan co-founder Sujit Kumar. Capita currently serves clients in Indonesia, Singapore, and India, focusing on startups. Its software platform helps private companies digitize and manage cap tables, perform due diligence, and issue equity to employees. Capita was founded in 2019 by Ravi Ravulaparthi, Lakshman Gupta, and Vamsi Mohan. And today the company has close to around 30 people in its team. This is a classic example of new use cases being discovered as the startup ecosystem matures, isn't it?
Yeah, very much true. So it's a new solution to a new problem, right? Private equity investment is, it's very very complex. There's tons of legal and compliance work, and even post your Series A, things can get really messy. Cap tables can get very complicated. To top it, I mean, you will have an ESOP pool, advisory shares, and if you have investors from a couple of different geographies, it complicates things 10x further, right? So one of the things that I also saw within Capita's product pages is that you can actually do deal scenarios, and see what different valuations and projections will look like. A lot of scope for financial modeling and stuff. The important thing is that, look, all of this work is very very important, but at the same time, I mean, it's not revenue generating, right? So founders are often burdened with all of this work, and this is not stuff that they can escape as well, right? But it's broadly classified as ops and admin work, right? It's not revenue generating by any stretch. So they have to reluctantly do all of this cumbersome work, and this is a great way to leverage software to ease that pain. I'm sure, I mean, when Capita was pitching this to investors or founders, I mean, there was ready resonance in that sense, right? So it seems like Capita's founders are also from a corporate finance and investing background, right? So they know what they're doing. So yeah, this should be interesting.
Nice. Also, over the past episodes, we've been talking quite a bit about the mobile gaming space. And this week, online gaming platform Mobile Premier League is in talks with existing and new investors to raise up to $150 million. After Dream 11's 2x jump in valuation within 6 months, MPL has now joined the race for the Unicorn Club. The fantasy and esports have been really catching on in India at a quick pace, and investors seem to be very bullish on the segment. Mobile Premier League has grown to over 70 plus games and 7 million users. And reports peg that the current online gamers base in India stands at 360 million and is projected to cross the 500 million mark by 2025. Dream 11 has raised $625 million in primary and secondary capital since October 2020. And another gaming platform, Windsor Games, had raised close to $28 million in equity and debt financing in the past 6 months. Now, if you look at the mobile gaming sector in India, as I mentioned, investors are really bullish on the segment. Dominating the gaming space is really not an easy task, because by putting out a game out of India doesn't necessarily mean that you're competing within the Indian subcontinent. You're competing with the top games out there in a heavily crowded market like Clash of Clans, PUBG, Mobile Legends, and the likes. So it requires constant innovation to acquire new customers and keep them engaged in the platform. And before the game stories get over, you have to monetize the users who are playing your games. So hats off to the people at Mobile Premier Leagues and more power to them. Roshan, anything you would like to add on this segment?
No, it's an interesting sort of an evolution that we've seen within Indian gaming itself. I think we discussed this earlier when we were talking about Dream 11, right? I'm very very bullish on this, right? I think it'll be a fantastic sector to look out for sure.
Right. So we have another startup almost about to enter the unicorn club. Banking tech startup Zeta is inching closer to the coveted unicorn club as it finalizes a new round of investment with SoftBank Vision Fund 2. They're in the advanced stages to lead a $250 million Series D round in the 5-year-old startup. The investment proposal values the company, which is co-founded by high-profile entrepreneur Bhavin Turakhia, at over $1 billion, up from 300 million in its maiden external funding, which was its Series C in 2019. The thesis is that banks, which are largely operating on antiquated technologies, today don't have the time and expertise to offer the best experience to hundreds of millions of customers and fintech firms that they serve. And especially with remote work being the norm, this becomes ever more relevant. But its first external funding round, Series C. Any thoughts on that, Roshan?
Yeah, so Zeta is an interesting story, and before we get to the business, let's talk about the entrepreneurs because they are also equally interesting, if not more, right? So Zeta is co-founded by Bhavin Turakia, and he's one half of the Turakia brothers, Bhavin and Divyank. They've built successful businesses, I think 4 or 5 successful businesses over the last 15, 20 years, right? So they sold MediaNet for about $900 million. MediaNet operated in the ad tech space. Then they sold Big Rock, built and sold Big Rock for $160 million. Big Rock, of course, was for hosting and domains. So they've done this before. They've been there and done that. They operate in the parent company is called DirectEye, and they run multiple businesses like so. They run multiple businesses like Flock, which is a Slack equivalent, right? And then there's also Ringo, which is low cost calling. So Zeta started off as an employee benefits sort of a company, right, to compete with Sodexo. Now I don't know how many people remember Sodexo, but Sodexo had these passes for meals, and there was some tax savings that you could get from that, and so on and so forth. Then they merged that business with Sodexo's Indian business, right? And I think they retain a minority stake there, but that got sold off. And since then, they've pivoted to this whole embedded finance angle, right? So we've referenced that Angela Strange article. Angela Strange is a partner with Henderson Horowitz, and we've referenced her article a couple of times or more. It's an amazing article called "Every Company Will Be a FinTech Company," where she talks about how embedded finance is going to like take over every sort of product or service that we deliver, right? So every startup will be offering some sort of fintech, and we're seeing that Paytm is doing insurance, for example, right? So Zeta offers credit, debit, loan processing products as a very plug and play kind of a model, right? So what you do is typically layer on top of your core banking operations and fit this wherever is required, right? So they're pitching this to let's say e-commerce players, fintechs, and whatnot. And they're offering it through a white labeled app which they call Tachyon, right? And also there are some APIs and so on that businesses can consume. Again, the interesting thing also is that they're offering services which is program management and consulting along with this whole thing, right? So uh, you know talk about like fintech transformation. That is really what Zeta is trying to do here, and I think the ambition itself is at a very grand scale. So yeah, fantastic pivot, and another sort of a unicorn in the making, I would say.
Absolutely. But these are all large ticket fundraisers, right? And even Dhruva, which is our next piece of news, has raised around $147 million in Series H funding. Now, with this funding, the valuation now crosses over $2 billion. And even if you look at their clientele, right, Dhruva counts US space agency NASA, drug maker Pfizer as some of its customers. And over the pandemic, the company's cloud platform products has seen a 50% increase in use over the past year, while its data management has grown 40%. So as we started off this roundup by saying that India is undergoing this entire digital transformation, right? And data and cloud platforms will play an ever increasing role. How do you see some of the innovations happening in this space?
No, not just India, I mean, globally, this is relevant, right? The cloud economy is growing, SaaS applications are growing, so the whole market is sort of increasing, right? And you're going to see individual companies like Dhruva pop up, right, which operate this specific problem as such. So broadly, they offer what is called cloud protection, data protection, and backup as a service, right? So you have various points. Basically, you have endpoints like devices like laptops, smartphones, etc. And then you have platforms like your Google Suite or Office, and then there are physical servers or virtual servers like AWS and so on. So the data in a large organization is spread across so many different places. Right now, how do you ensure that there is some kind of compliance? There's some kind of data protection, backup, and all of that. It's not a trivial problem. It's a very, very, very complex problem, and that's what they've been able to do at scale, right? So I think 4,000 plus organizations use Dhruva, including some of the largest organizations across industries, right? So you have Pfizer, which is in the pharmaceutical space. You have DHL Logistics, ING, which is in the financial services space, and then Marriott, of course, in hospitality, right? So it's a prevalent problem irrespective of what industry you belong to. And as the cloud economy grows, as the SaaS economy grows, I think Dhruva will become a lot more relevant. They're already doing, I think, about 100 plus in $100+ million in revenue. So yeah, Dhruva is one of the most exciting companies to come out of India in the SaaS space, I would say. And you know what's interesting? We've spoken about three SaaS businesses raising money so far, and all three of them had different investors at Series A. So, Whatfix is Sequoia, ChargeBee, of course, is Axel, and then Dhruva is Nexus, right? So, yeah, that's amazing.
Right. Next, we have another startup which is backed by Sequoia. Razorpay has raised $160 million in its Series E financing round, and the company was valued at over $3 billion. It had attained the unicorn status last year when it had raised $100 million in its Series D fundraise. I think we had covered this as well. This new round, as I mentioned, was co-led by Sequoia Capital India and Singapore's Sovereign Wealth Fund (GIC). Some other existing investors included Ribbit Capital and Tiger Global also participated in the round. Till date, Razorpay has raised $366.5 million. This is one of India's largest payment gateway platforms, and it's going to utilize these funds for its Southeast Asia expansions. Roshan, do you think what Stripe is in the West, Razorpay can compete in a similar space for the Southeast Asian markets?
Yeah, very much, very much. I mean, see, operating in India and Southeast Asia, right, it kind of battle hardens you in some sense, right? Because again, selling software to MSMEs here is not a trivial thing, and Razorpay has done that incredibly well. They've grown like crazy. They're a fantastic payments platform, and I think they've already launched a few other products like billing, invoicing, and so on, and which all of which look really, really good, right? So we had discussed this earlier as well. This whole business in a box solution, which will get a lot more prevalent, right? So what Stripe is trying to do in the US, I think Razorpay and a bunch of others like Kathabook and so on will try to do India and Southeast Asia. The dynamics of both of these markets are relatively similar, I would say, right? So it makes sense for them to sort of expand beyond India as well. But in India itself, I think there are 10 million plus MSMEs, or what qualifies as MSMEs. So it's a large enough market, even from a domestic perspective, for them to be raising this kind of cash and like going after all of these companies, right? So um, it remains to be seen how much they will be able to monetize these companies, right? Because paying transaction fee is one thing, right? Paying for software, on a monthly or a annual basis is quite another thing, right? So um, I think Zoho offers business software, or Tally offers business software for like $1,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 or something of that sort, right? So it will be it'll be difficult for sure, right? I mean, it will be challenging, but I think they have a great team, they have a fantastic team, and more power to them.
Right. Before we end this week's roundup, Roshan, any thoughts on what episodes you'll be putting out this week?
So both of these are amazing episodes upcoming. So Ajay Gore is one of the most requested people that we've had on the show, and we're running this as part of the Engineering Manager series. And talking to him, I was reminded of this Einstein quote, right? The definition of genius is taking the complex and making it simple. Really, so Augustus and I were amazed by how Ajay explained things like maturity models, which is like what and when to build, how to build stuff, and plenty of nuances on engineering leadership and so on. All of this in a very very simple, relatable way through very fun anecdotes and examples. So yeah, really looking forward to this. And also we spoke to Meeta Malhotra, who is been in the industry, been in the ecosystem for a couple of decades. Built one of the early SaaS companies, Kinetic Glue, which got acquired by BMC Software, and also ran a design firm called Ray and Keshavan. So we spoke about branding for startups specifically, and a lot of tactical advice in terms of how to go about your messaging and how to communicate and so on. Yeah, so fantastic couple of episodes upcoming.
All right, folks. So with that, do keep an eye out on our LinkedIn and Twitter handles. We'll be pushing updates on these episodes when they'll be out over there. As always, do let us know what did you think of this week's roundup and what do you think of the episode that we'll be putting out. If there's anything that we can improve, do reach out to us and have a great week ahead. Take care and stay safe. Thanks, Roshan.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week ahead.